any time that you drop a big bomb on anyone like that, there's definitely some resistance for sure. So you just kind of have to not give a fuck, right? Like, and just do it. And it's not even like you don't care about their opinion, but you have to live your own life too. And you have to be able to show them that you're going to either succeed or you're going to be able to fix your mistakes and kind of prove it to them that, you know, you got this.
Welcome to the On Fire Podcast, Episode 7. I'm Kellen Panicha, and in this episode, I'll be your only host, but I have two guests, Justin and Lara. These guys are an absolute power couple. By combining frugality with stock investing, real estate investing, and a few side hustles, Justin and Lara have an aggressive plan to retire in the coming years and pursue the lives they really want, including plenty of frugal travel and simply spending more time together. So let's jump into the interview. Welcome to the On Fire Podcast. Justin and Lara, they left behind a beautiful single-family home to pursue financial independence through house hacking and rental property investing in London, Ontario. After a few years of diligently saving income from their day jobs, they decided to expedite their path to financial independence. In a very short period of time, they have purchased and flipped a fourplex, purchased another fourplex, moved into a duplex, and are currently keeping a close eye out for their next investment. When they're not posting pictures of their cats on Instagram, they're sharing landlord stories and documenting the challenges and successes along their path to financial independence. Welcome to the show, Justin and Lara.
Thanks for having us.
I'm glad to have you guys. So we always start with back to the roots. So Lara, can you walk us through your background and how you first came to discover the idea of financial independence?
Yeah, it's tough because I think that I started out with a very unhealthy relationship with money. I grew up around people that weren't very responsibly spending their money, and I decided that I didn't want to have any kind of loans when I went to school, so I tried very hard to get jobs to be able to, you know, pay for my own rent and pay for my school and everything like that. And so I think that money made me very nervous in terms of not being able to have it, so that fueled me into getting into a job, and one that would be paying the bills all the time, that I would not have to fear not having any money or whatever the case is. And
it's a very taboo subject too, right? Like, a lot of people don't like talking about it, especially family and friends. It's a subject people usually don't talk about much. We're really lucky to have a meetup where we can all get together and talk about these things openly. Not a lot of people have that available to them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice to know like everyone else's backstory and everyone else's thoughts on money and how they came to want to maybe become financially independent and not rely on their job. And you know, when Justin and I got married, we decided that there's no point for us living in this great big house and continuing to go to work and never seeing each other, because he worked shift work and I worked during the day, regular Monday to Friday. And so it was the thought of how can we spend time together more? And that's where we decided that it wasn't through your typical working Monday to Friday or your working jobs that we had. So I think that that's when we started to really want to be financially independent.
That's very cool. So how about you, Justin? What sparked your interest in financial independence?
Wanting to spend more time with Lara. Basically, like she said, we're both working our jobs like Monday to Friday or doing shift work. It just didn't leave us enough time seeing each other. Lara would come home from work and I'd just be leaving. So, you know, we didn't end up seeing each other nearly enough as we wanted to. And we just ended up not wanting to work for our entire lives.
Yeah, I think you find a lot of people that just end up being really sad and old at work, and some people really love their jobs. And I don't think that we had that same passion for our jobs. We had more passion in spending time with our friends and family and each other, which is not that often, because once again at work everyone complains about their significant other, and we didn't want to become those people.
You just end up living to work, really, you know.
Well, I love how you guys are talking about the idea of financial independence just allows you to spend more time together, because a lot of people think, well, what are you going to do without your day job, and like, what's life all about if you're not working? But like, you know, how many people wish they could spend more time with their friends and family? Like, financial independence is about freedom. It's about giving you as much time in your life as possible to apply to whatever it is you want to do. And the odds of that being your day job are slim. For some people, it's the case, but for a lot of people, it really isn't.
Yeah, those people are very lucky for sure.
Yes, exactly. So about a year ago, you guys sold what many would consider a dream home and decided to house hack in a large fourplex. What was your family and friends' reaction when you told them that you were going to do this?
Oh, geez. It it was mostly like shock. They were kind of like, you guys have your nice jobs, you have the nice house. Next step, you're supposed to have kids. It's really like the cookie cutter lifestyle. And we kind of were taking a big right turn and getting off the path, and then just going out in the wilderness pretty much. So, you know, everybody kind of thought it was the wrong decision, and they weren't overly supportive at first. Once we kind of showed everybody that we knew what we were doing, we did a lot of research, and we had a very good support network behind us. People started to see that and trust us a little bit more, but
I think our family was very fearful for us because, like Justin was saying, we're both government employees. We had the perfect house to raise the perfect family in the perfect neighborhood. And so they probably felt as though their job was done. And, they instilled upon us those things that they thought were important, and so that they can leave us to continue on our life and know that we would be okay. And we dropped that bomb. We also dropped the bomb that we didn't want kids and that we weren't going to be working for very much longer. So I think that it was a lot for them to take.
Yeah.
However, there was some anger that came with it too, which I think that was just seated in that frustration of, them maybe not thinking that we would get taken care of.
And
or
the
whatever.
understanding too. I don't think they understood the concept behind it. Because it's just the generations and how it is. You're supposed to get a very good job and then just do your Monday to Friday, and then you retire at 65, 70, and all of a sudden we're pushing to have a budget and have financial freedom so much earlier. And there's part of them, I think, that just didn't understand that as well.
It's off the beaten path. It's not typical. And a lot of people are scared when it's out of the ordinary. They're scared to step out of their own comfort zone, and they're fearful when other people are stepping out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And it's a common theme that we're seeing with all sorts of people. At first, at least, their friends and family tend to not really understand. Sometimes people lose friends over decisions like this. And I mean, like, at the end of the day, like, you want people in your life that are supporting you. And it's great to hear that, like, it seemed like people started to kind of understand once you showed, like, hey, this is really working out for us. It seemed like you got more support with your decisions.
Eventually they were like, my parents were coming by, and Lara's parents were coming by and helping us with renovations, and giving us good ideas. Like, you come by and end up painting, bringing over reno materials. So once we showed them that we knew what we were doing, we had a good support network, they instilled more trust in us. So
they went through a phase of acceptance for sure, and now I think they're at the point of trusting us because they saw that we rented it to really great people, and we were able to make money by living there, and then we sold it, and no one questioned that decision for us, which was really nice because they trusted us at that point. And now I don't think that they would be fearful for us to say we're buying another one or we're making this life decision. I think the next big step will be telling them that maybe you want to travel the world, and there's struggles with that too. So anytime that you drop a big bomb on anyone like that, there's definitely some resistance for sure. So you just kind of have to not give a fuck, right? Like, just do it.
Yeah.
And it's not even like you don't care about their opinion, but you have to live your own life too. And you have to be able to show them that you're going to either succeed or you're going to be able to fix your mistakes and kind of prove it to them that, you got this.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us more about your decision to sell this property. Many of our listeners probably think, hey, why would you move out of a place where you're living for free, possibly even making money on a monthly basis? What were some of the factors that went into that decision?
I think it comes down to that everybody's got a price. We ended up making it a good product for a investor. So we had ESA, we had fire, we had a rental license with the city, and we had a very good cash flowing property with high paying, well-streamed tenants. So for an outside investor, just looking at it on paper, it was just a brilliant investment. So we put it up for that high price, and we didn't even think we would get it, and somebody came very, very close to it. So everyone's got a price, and it ended up working out. So
it gave us the ability to make our money go further. Instead of refinancing, we knew that that was probably the most that we would be able to get out of that property based on things that were happening in the neighborhood. And then we ended up buying the duplex and the fourplex instead, and not having to really put any money out of pocket because of what we made off of our original investment as well. We didn't have as much of a network at that point, and it was our first property. It was our first learning experience. So we learned a lot from picking that particular property out in terms of living in it, and to be able to pick out 2 more a year after, so you have that years of experience and the
really,
people that were helping us, so that we could really decide on 2 more properties, and maybe in a year or 6 months, or when you learn something else, your mind will change and something else happens. But
yeah. So was there a big difference between living in the fourplex with 3 other separate units versus living in a duplex with only 1 other unit that you guys are in now?
I feel like we're spoiling ourselves in a way in the duplex, because it's in a nicer part of town. I mean, we're in the Old North now. The noise is a lot less. I mean, we do have 3 Western girls living above us, so that can get a little noisy at times. But
the 19-year-old birthday party.
yeah, that was it's an interesting night.
I think when we lived in the fourplex, we tended to help our tenants out a lot, and I don't think we learned how to make our tenants self-sufficient, or ensure that they are more independent, and no, we'll take care of that for you, and we got this, and I think that's a really hard mindset to get out of for when you don't live in a different property. So
it's about building the systems. Like when you're living there, you don't necessarily have to have systems, because you can just go upstairs. But now all of a sudden, if you have a property that you're not living in yourself, now maybe you're out of town, you need somebody to take care of it. Like you need to suddenly have systems in place, be the right people to call. It's a whole different thing than living in a property.
Yeah, I think the biggest downside to this particular one would be that we're not making money because we're living in the duplex instead of the fourplex. But we love the place that we have, and
we're spoiling ourselves a little living there.
And compared to living in a single family home, you're still coming out ahead, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's a place that I think that we can keep coming back to if we do end up just traveling the world. We would be okay with coming back to just the duplex, and it is in a spot that maybe we could Airbnb in the future while we're not there.
It's the perfect size too, so it's nice.
That's great. So besides real estate, are there any other side hustles or streams of income that you guys are pursuing to make extra money in the evenings or weekends?
Selling stuff on Kijiji for the most part. Pot stocks as well. About a year and a half ago, we started buying into companies like Etheria, Aurora, and Canopy.
Oh yeah.
The big names. So that's worked out a little bit. We've kind of traded off some of those, sold and bought. But that overall, I mean, we've got a crazy return on that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, renovations for friends too. I picked up a lot of trade skills through my dad and through my grandfather, so I put that to work either for friends and family, and do little mini jobs here and there, mostly for bourbon, and around 25 an hour and a little bourbon on the side.
Or scotch.
Will work for scotch, yeah. Yeah.
So Justin, during our interview with Jeff Wybo, we discussed the idea of lifestyle hacking via the Army or military service. Do you have any experience with serving in the military that maybe shaped your opinions or approach to spending or saving?
It's easy to spend money, I think, when you have a lot coming in. Like while we were overseas, a lot of the income we were getting was tax-free. And we did have access to the internet, so you have all this income coming in, and it's very easy to go online and order things and spend money. So looking back, I would have saved a lot more. And you see a lot of guys coming back from deployment, and they'll just buy like a $40,000 truck or something.
Wow.
Around 2008, 2009, I ended up investing a lot of my money from tour, which helped Lara and I get to where we are today. But yeah, looking back, I mean, try and save.
Do you think that was a lot of them came with the mentality of being in the military? Like we always talk about you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and when you're surrounded by a bunch of people who are spending all of their money online while everything they're making buying that $40,000 truck, that seems like the norm to you, right? Like it's hard to break out of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole the linear. The whole kind of line where your income goes up and your spending goes up as well, and that's kind of pretty much it. I mean, you end up making more when you're on deployment, and your spending goes up equally, right?
Yeah.
So
you inflate your lifestyle along with it.
Absolutely.
From an outside perspective, it seems as though when you are in a stressful situation or a stressful job, people tend to want to spend their money that they earn just relaxing or doing something that they really feel will contribute to their happiness because they've been through
material happiness, maybe.
Yeah, so they think that potentially that $40,000 truck will make them happy, or maybe they need to go out and drink and just let off some steam or go on a vacation, and so sometimes, you know, that's the tough thing with having a stressful job, whether or not you're in the army or in an office. I think that's how lifestyle inflation definitely happens, because you try to make up for that happiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's interesting. So if you didn't get into real estate investing, what other paths might have you guys followed in your pursuit to financial independence?
Oh, geez.
We thought before we went on vacation with Jeff Wybo that we would just aggressively save. We would put everything into stocks, into our RSPs, TFSAs, and that's what we thought. You know, we had that 10-year plan. If we just do this, we can retire in 10 years. Now, mind you, we hadn't met any of the fire people, so maybe the calculations could have been more of a 5-year plan, which I think is still safe to say that we would be on the 5-year plan. But after learning about the house hacking, that made such a huge impact, to be able to live for free, inexpensively, or even make money off of where you live. And like I said, Jeff Wybo had introduced us to that concept, and then into real estate. And I think that fueled it from 5 to 10 years to potentially 2 years.
Yeah.
We're thinking
maybe 2 or less, hopefully.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so exciting. Well, I can't wait to do a follow-up episode when you guys get to that point.
It'll light a fire under our asses for sure.
I'm sure you'll have good stories at that point.
We'll do a Skype video from Costa Rica or something.
So you guys recently started some personal branding under the pseudonym Mr. and Mrs. DINK. The idea of being a DINK can be controversial for many people and often comes with some preconceived notions. Can you tell us more about what it's all about and explain for anybody that doesn't know what exactly is a DINK?
So double income, no kids, for the most part. People are always putting up pictures of their kids and stuff like that on Facebook, and we just kind of counter that by just putting up cat photos all the time, I guess, of fur children. But it's just about not wanting kids, wanting to spend the most amount of time as you can with your spouse, enjoy financial freedom, I think, is a big part of it as well.
We decided very early on in our marriage that we didn't want kids because we saw relationships deteriorating through them. We saw, people thought that it wasn't fair to their children because they were working so much, and we didn't really we don't have the maternal parental instincts. We love our friends' kids, our cousins and family, and I think that our efforts are better spent guiding them in their journey, because we can be the fun aunt and fun uncle that they really want to listen to, and help them learn things and explore things, instead of the parent that's just been beaten down from parenting is hard, you know?
From the outside looking in, it just looks miserable too.
Yeah,
honestly.
so it's nice to be able to help influence our friends' kids and be the best role models for them, while being able to spend time to do what we like. I think the other thing too is that it's just a part of breaking the mold, and we thought at first that we wanted kids because it's the same thing that caused us to want the day job and to want that perfect house, and we just, the light switch turned on, I guess, and you just don't do what's normal, and that kind of came with it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's kind of the theme of the podcast. We end every episode saying, being normal, right? Do what you want to do with life. Don't necessarily follow that path that everybody else is following.
Absolutely.
Props to parents, though.
No, absolutely. Like we had Michael Rosehart on the podcast, who has a child. Jeff Wybo is going to be having a kid soon. It's, even if you have no job, it's a full-time job, and there's a lot of respect to be had for that. Yeah. And if that's what people want from their lives, right? It's the same thing. If you're happy with your job, like if you're happy with your career, like, props to those people, right? It's not necessarily for everybody.
Yes, yeah, and we want to help them. It's definitely, it takes a village, and I think that a part of that village just needs to be able to have the time and the energy to spend with other people's children, to help them. Mm-hmm. And to just, if we're parents, it makes it difficult to babysit for other parents and give them some break. And
Yeah, and it'll be a lot more exciting for you.
Yeah.
Because you're not
Yes.
going to be dead, you're not going to be exhausted from looking after your own
Exactly, and I think that really reflects in the great times that you have with those people as children.
You could just show up, give them some Red Bull, cuddle them for a couple hours, and leave. You know?
Scotch is for teething, isn't it?
So, on this podcast, we often bring up the challenges that come with finding a partner who shares similar financial habits. It seems like you guys you're on the same page with a lot of these things. What has experience been like for the two of you? Do you guys have any sort of system for managing your spending and saving?
Recently, we got into putting ourselves on a budget. I think at the start it was really tough because I had my background kind of molding of how my expenses were kind of tuned out.
I think it definitely took a little bit. It takes work. Sometimes people are, they find the person that thinks exactly the same, and I don't think that that's very fun. I think that because we think differently, it's exciting, and we work together, and we have those challenges, and we learn from each other. So, Justin, you ended up being able to purchase things, and maybe you were saving a little bit, or you would buy something that would last forever, whereas I was always so scared to spend money. And so you taught me that it's great to be able to have that money and spend it on something that's really important to you, or something that's going to last a really long time. And I think, or I hope, that I was able to teach you that sometimes you kind of have to be scared about spending, so that you have to have more of a budget. So we definitely were able to work together, and it's come a long way and sometimes we'll switch. Sometimes Justin will be in budget mode, and I will just be like, take my money, I'm going to go eating and drinking and whatever, and then we'll switch, right? We balance each other out.
At each end of the spectrum, I was at the spend kind of spectrum, and Laura's kind of the save, and now there's been a lot of compromise and a lot of learning for both of us, and we kind of hover around the middle now, and it seems to work really well.
That's awesome. It's a huge challenge a lot of people have. I like how you described it as exciting, because a lot of people would find it as just a big clash, and it probably would be at moments, but it can be an opportunity to learn from each other. You each have your own opinions to bring to this, and it could be a big learning opportunity.
Money can always it's a big kind of trigger for arguments, I think, in relationships. So.
Yes, absolutely. So was there anything in particular that you may have found that maybe you don't need in order to be happy, or something in particular that you're like, oh, this is something that I could buy that, I'll have it for the rest of my life. It is worth the purchase?
Probably a lot of material items. I think a lot of people say if you haven't used it in 6 months or a year or something, why are you keeping it? Why do you have it? Put it up on Kijiji, take that money and put it in pot stocks, or or put it into something that will be productive for you, or will make you more money, or is going to actually bring you genuine happiness.
House hacking really showed us what you don't need, because we had 3 bedrooms and 3 whole bathrooms. Nobody needs that much stuff.
Full basement too.
So when we ended up house hacking, we were in a smaller space, so we had to get rid of a lot of our stuff, and it's so freeing. So definitely the material items, but I think that things that are still important to us would be vacationing together, because we're still working, so it would be really nice to see each other. And I really enjoy food, so I think that I would still be good with spending on food, but getting rid of the material items, realizing that certain things don't make you happy, and other things, I don't know, something delicious makes me so happy.
Yeah, everybody's got their thing that they really want to keep doing. So I still love playing hockey, right? So I'll still go out and I'll play, I even find good hourly rates for hockey though, so I'm even still kind of frugal when it comes to that. But
that's actually what my next question was going to be. What are some of your guilty pleasures then?
Well,
is there something you guys like to indulge in?
Sushi.
I was thinking even more expensive. We just kind of slowed down, if not may bring it to a halt, competitive shooting. So Lara and I were doing that for about 2 years or so, and that was just you can't even try and budget if you're doing competitive shooting, because ammo alone, is it could be anywhere from $200 to $1,000 a month for just ammo.
Wow.
Match fees are in the hundreds of dollars sometimes. We were at hotels, firearms repair,
I don't think it's a guilty
expensive.
Pleasure anymore.
No.
I think that we will potentially still continue to do it recreationally, and I think versus competitively.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that now our guilty pleasures are just things like ice cream and vacations, and just enjoying those like just better things in life.
Well, you're seeing the opportunity cost of that money because you saw the value it was bringing you. You had excitement. It was an experience. That's great. But you could also take that $1,000 a month and apply it to financial independence at a younger age, or freedom to do something you want or from something you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yes, you can really start to just immerse yourself into a particular hobby or a particular sport or whatever the case is. But then when you start to realize this means that I have to retire 4 years later or however many years later, then you really start to say, like, is that worth it? What's my time worth?
So another recurring question we have for our guests is spreadsheet junkie. Do you guys track your net worth, your expenses? Do you use budgets? And do you typically track these collectively or individually?
We started to, about 6 months ago, I put everything into Excel that we were spending, and it was so easy to spend on your credit card or your debit card. Now, we're not huge credit card people. We just do it for the points. And really starting to see how much we were spending. I think that's what we used Excel for the most in terms of the spreadsheet junkiness, to figure out what our budget should be by averaging out what we were spending 3 to 6 months and saying that's still too much. So we're going to really tighten it up. And after that, we just put all the money into literally envelopes and said, this is how much you have for this month for eating out and groceries. And if it didn't work out, it didn't work out, but it had to work out. Justin tracks our net worth, though, I think more than I would.
Yeah, it's kind of like checkups once in a while, like every month or so. I'll kind of poke in the numbers, add things up, and
it's a good way to really grasp, like, okay, where 80-20, right? Where should I be spending my effort in order to get my net worth as high as I can in a short period of time? You start seeing, like, hey, like that house we bought and flipped, like that, all of a sudden our net worth jumped way more than it ever had when we were just saving from our day job. So, like, maybe we should focus more attention on those types of things.
Yeah, I definitely look at the long term where I'm like, what does this number mean? So when Justin tells me a number, I'm like, how many is that in years of work that we still have to do? Does that bring it down 6 months or down 1 year? Does that mean that what do we have to do to make it so that it's still the 2-year goal?
I love that. That's a great way to look at it.
Budgeting was so far the best, though, like having all the physical cash, because you can see it right in front of you in each envelope. So for like gas money or for groceries or something, it's very easy to track, because you take the money out, you put the receipt back in, you write how much you spent. So
right, I like that, the envelope method. And
you don't
I know
just tap the card, So
some people mention spending cash. It feels like they're not even spending money, whereas some people, when they spend cash, that's when they feel like they're really spending money. So everyone feels differently about whether credit cards or cash or what they should be using. It's just about, like, identify what it is that you feel like you're spending money too easily with, and maybe stop using that method of payment. That could be a little tip to you.
For us, it was when you open the envelope and it's the middle of the month and you're like, I only have $30 for eating
a bunch of nickels and dimes.
So then maybe you don't go out that week. Maybe you go out the following week, or you try to go somewhere inexpensive, but then the rest of our money goes straight back into either investments, or right now it's been going back into the properties. So everyone seems to think, you have all this money set aside because you only spend this on living and your own expenses, but they don't realize literally the rest of it just goes right towards the house. So
it could be something good to share on, like, your Instagram and stuff, like how much are you spending on these renovations? Just share with people, right?
They would be floored.
It's a good number, though. Sometimes I tell coworkers and stuff, like, oh yeah, for the kitchen reno, for this whole unit we're probably thinking $5,000, and like, well, I paid that to have, like,
a door installed.
Exactly. It didn't even come with hardware.
Well, we're taking our frugal mentality and applying it to business, and I think not enough people do that with their business. Like micromanaging your costs is actually a really great thing for, like, not just individually, but for your business. So let's jump over to Reddit, where a user named Velociprime asked, to those who live in areas with seemingly endless food options, how do you balance eating out with home cooking?
That's a tough thing for us. We love eating out.
We have no willpower when it comes to good food. So the envelope, I think mostly the budgeting, it comes back to that. You'll have separate envelopes, so you only have so much for eating out, and you only have so much for groceries.
And you found that worked for you guys,
and that's just the definitive way for us. Like, it just helps out so much.
But now we don't mindlessly eat out. We try to find somewhere that's delicious yet inexpensive, like L Furniture Warehouse. They have amazing food.
Yeah.
Not sponsored by them at all.
Yeah.
But you can get everything there for $5 and everything's really tasty. And
really good.
and then when potentially you do go out for something larger like sushi, you make it a bigger deal where your friends come out, or you
make it a
combine with
social
your
event.
You go for
family.
lunch instead of dinner or something, right? You save a little bit of money there. Or...
It's definitely a time issue too. So with Justin and I working, plus the renos and all the other stuff that you have going on, it makes it very difficult to consciously try to go to the market and get something that's locally sourced that you can make it at home. And then by the end of the day, it's part lazy factor, part time factor. But I think that potentially when we reach financial independence, we would love to be able to learn how to cook amazing dishes and be able to spend that time getting locally sourced foods.
I think we'll alter our budget as well at that time. We'll see where we can decrease expenditures and increase in other areas.
That's really neat. Yeah, actually, I like that idea.
It's always adapting, I think, because even the first month we did budgeting, we came under budget of our very first month doing it. So, of course, the excess just went right into alcohol.
But
Well, conscious consumption is what it's all about. Yeah.
So now we strive to come under budget all the time, so we can just get
Just more alcohol. So what's the plan for you guys now, long term? Do you guys have a goal in mind that you're aiming for, a dream that you may be pursuing? If so, what are the steps you're planning on taking to get there?
I think the end goal is not to be tied down anywhere. If tomorrow we want to go on a frugal trip to Costa Rica and backpack for however long we want, like up to 6 months or something, then we can do that. It's just the general goal of financial freedom that is just so appealing. We want to have no strings tying us down. Obviously, we want to see family and stuff still, but if we want to go do something, we don't want to have a job to tie you down. We want to live our lives and enjoy as much time as we can together, I think. So
yeah, I think that hopefully we can stick within 2 to 5 years. Now, as I say, it
maybe
keeps
even
getting
cut
longer.
it down less,
Maybe
right?
cut it down, but
Yeah.
and we're still young enough that if we want to continue to pursue real estate, whether it's just house flipping or more rentals or whatever the case is, we can do that. We can work at a place that really excites us, like Mac, because we love to camp and we love to backpack.
Oh, I would
and
love
do
to work
that.
there too.
Right?
So, and it's one of those things where people work there as a part-time job because maybe you have to, but it would be awesome to work there because you really want to.
You want to be there,
Yeah. And
Work's
then-
more fun when you don't need the money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You're definitely more passionate about it. So
And if you could help others doing it too, like doing renovations for friends or something.
Yeah.
I think it would
Absolutely.
be great to volunteer as we travel too and really meet people, because it's very dangerous to stay in the same place for either your whole life or an extended period of time, because you don't learn from other people. You don't know what life is like. Like Justin was saying, Costa Rica, we just came back from there recently, so it's
Yeah.
hard to pick anywhere else in the world.
Get
But
so well cultured, right?
yeah, and realizing that they're happy with a small house, and you come back and you realize that that's what is life about. And then maybe when we go somewhere else in the world, you start to it opens your eyes to different cultures, different foods, different personalities, and just way of thinking, and you can implement that here and really teach other people, right?
I love that. Yeah. No, I can definitely see how living in a bubble, right? Like if you even living in just a city for a large period of your life, it's the only thing you know. It's what's normal to you. I grew up in northern Ontario in Canada, and it was a small town, and like there was definitely certain mentalities there that when you leave the city, all of a sudden you realize that's not the way that the rest of the world is. And like for better or for worse, it's a bubble, and it's good to just expose yourself to like the rest of the world and like grow.
For anything, just to understand how truly lucky that you are, regardless of if you're working, have no job, or you have a job, or something bad happens, you don't realize how lucky you are until you start to see this. And I don't think that you can properly meet other people where you live without going out and meeting people from all over the world, because you do end up in, like you said, a little bubble, or you end up with almost horse blinders on, and
Compounding first world problems that just build on each other.
And because of the Fire Network, we've been friends with people that we didn't think we would ever meet in any kind of capacity or even want to be friends with, but you realize that you should really get to know somebody on a deeper level, and it's not just the first 5 minutes or whatever.
And everybody's
the
so
case is.
genuine too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no one judging book by their cover, right? Just like get to know people. I learned that a lot recently this last year too. people like I used to be a lot more of a judgmental person, and so I would see somebody and they'd be acting in a way that I'm just like, oh, it's one of those people. But now I try and get past that first layer and like see like what can I learn from this person. It's not good to be judgmental, and I think we learn that a lot from being able to go to like these types of meetups and meeting all sorts of different people that have a lot to teach and a lot that we can teach them. So did you guys have a tip that you wanted to share with the audience?
I think get on kind of the same page about money and budgeting, and not to fight over money, because it is honestly not that big of a deal. It's not worth the relationship. I know a lot of people do fight over it and it ends up being a power struggle, and that's really dangerous. And the most important thing is time with each other and being with each other.
Yeah.
And then you were saying the question.
Yeah, I'd say track your spending. It's too easy just to spend $2 here and there on a coffee and debit, and you don't see the physical money kind of leaving your person in a way. It's not in your pocket where you hand them cash. Try and use your cards as little as possible, unless it's something like Visa for like renovation material, obviously, because that's building your net worth anyways. But track your spending. Budgeting has just been a whole new world that we've opened, and it's fantastic. Like it's helping us so much.
I think too, don't let people, whether they're friends or family, deter you of what you have in mind. If you want to be an artist, or if you want to quit your job and do whatever, travel the world, try to see where they're coming from, but keep doing what you're doing, and don't let them think that you're going crazy because you're budgeting and you're cheap, and just keep going on your path and try to find people that are like-minded and have a support group, and you'll realize that there's more to what you're seeing behind your friends and family frustration and confusion, and that other people are doing it, and it'll really help you just prove to them that it's okay to be different. It's okay to go against the grain, and
reach out and speak to those people. Find the fire people out there, find the Dylans, Kellans, and Matts, and speak to them and learn from them.
Find your people, absolutely.
Yeah.
So thanks for being on the show, guys. Before we wrap up, we always like to get our guests to ask the audience a question. So did you have a question that you wanted to ask the audience?
I'd say what's holding you back? Why haven't you reached out to the fire people or other like-minded frugal people, and why haven't you taken that step, the first step towards financial independence? Whether it's just joining like a local network of the same like-minded people, or selling your single family house and getting a rental property, even just moving into a duplex. If it's the fear of the unknown, just what is it? And
my question would be, has anybody thought of who they are outside of their work and outside of some of their hobbies potentially? It makes it very difficult. I think Matt had posted a video of the dark side of financial independence and trying to find yourself, and who are you after you're a parent? Who are you after you're that employee? What makes you you? Has anybody kind of thought of that and internalized what you would do if you didn't have that job, if you weren't working? Who would you be, and what would that person look like?
That's really interesting. Yeah. So where can people find you right now? Facebook, Instagram, anywhere else?
We're on Instagram. We're Mr. and Mrs. Dink.
Yeah.
Wait, it's the Dinks. It's the Dinks.
You can find us either way, I think.
Yeah.
Is it the Dinks?
Yeah, I think it's the Dinks.
It's the Dinks. It goes by both on there.
I'll make sure to put in the show notes so that people can find you.
Yeah. Both of us have Facebook as well under our given and surnames as well. So we're always available for contact if anyone has any questions.
But the most amount of cat photos is Instagram for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for being on the show, guys.
Thanks for having us. It was great.
I hope you guys enjoyed that episode as much as I did. These guys have been a huge inspiration to me and a bunch of other people, so I really look forward to following their journey and seeing where they take it. So be sure to check us out on the London on Fire Facebook group, themeetup.com, onfirepodcast.ca, and make sure to tune into our next On Fire podcast. Thanks for listening. This is Kellen Panicha, signing off. And until the next episode, remember, f*** being normal, buying stuff doesn't make you happy, and always remember what Manoj Arora said. You must tell your money how you want to live your life, and not the other way around.